I typically come on here and I have a script, somewhat of a script written out. Sometimes I plan these out a little bit, just some of the stuff that I'm going to say. But today is just kind of off the cuff, man. I just had a new kid. I haven't been able to record a pod in, about a week. Usually like to go post game, but I figured tonight with the return of Colin Sexton, the return of Lowry Marketing, some familiar faces in town. Tonight was a perfect opportunity for me to hop on here and just give my quick thoughts on a game. And little did I know that Sam motherfucking Merrill would give us an opportunity to just sit back and rejoice about yet another weapon that we have off of this Cavaliers bench. And look, he's been doing this season already. He's already shooting 44+% from 3-point distance, and the volume is there. That's the biggest key to me. The volume is by far that's the best thing about this. And it's not like Sam is out there just jacking up shots. They are meaningful. They're within the confines of the offense. And they're legitimately shots that they look Klay Thompson-esque, like prime Klay Thompson-esque coming off screens and whatnot and spotting up in the corners. It's beautiful. Speaking of Merrill, in 30 minutes off the Cavaliers bench, 27 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, 9 of 16 from the field, 8 of 14 from 3-point distance. The guy at certain point tonight, I was thinking, hey, is this dude going to break Kyrie Irving's 3-point record, single game record for the Cavs, which stands at 11? He did not break it, but I'll take the 27 points. I called it before the game. I thought, hey, jokingly, I'm not going to give myself too much credit here. Jokingly, I said, is Sam Merrill going to go for 30 points? And he was just 3 points off. Credit where credit is due. Those of you out there who have continuously shat on JB Bickerstaff, give him some credit. If you're going to be man enough to criticize the head coach when things aren't going quite so well, be man enough to give the guy some credit, because over this last 3 games, JB has really showed just how good of a coach he can be when chips are down, when you don't have a number of starters out there, when you're just without really 2 of your top 3 players. No, not even 2, 3 of your top 4 players. You didn't have Donovan Mitchell tonight. You didn't have Darius Garland. You still don't have Evan Mobley, right? JB continues to amaze. He's taken a lot of flack over these past couple of seasons, but these last 3 games have really shown just how much growth he's had. He's opened the rotation up a little bit, played a 9-man rotation tonight, and I get it. A lot of people are going to sit here and say that, well, it's just a result of missing so many guys, and the Cavs said that they were going to do this by committee in the absence of many of these players. But still, JB has chosen to go the route of opening up the rotation. And not just that, he's giving guys minutes at the right times. Case in point, the game the other night when he pulled Karis LeVert in favor of Sam Merrill. That was big time. Tonight, giving Sam Merrill more minutes again than Karis LeVert, 30. He led all reserves with 30 minutes. He was basically your 6th starter out there, which is something that I've become accustomed to saying about Karis. And Karis, not too much bad to say about him tonight. He chipped in 23 points and 7 assists himself. So this is very much a collective effort. But I say all that to say, JB, it's not just about expanding that rotation. It's about knowing when and when not to have certain guys out there in certain lineups. And JB has done a masterful job of putting things together in the absence of not only Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, but tonight without Donovan Mitchell. So it was wonderful. They got all the playmaking they needed out of a number of people. I continue to be very, 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 very hyped about Isaac Okoro out there facilitating and orchestrating and putting guys in the right spots. Is something that I would like to see the Cavs play into a little bit more consistently. And I get why that's not the case, right? When fully healthy, truth be told, you don't want the ball in Isaac Okoro's hands more than you would have it in Donovan's or Darius's or Karis's or even Craig's, right? So I get why that is, but when you don't have those players available, make use of the fact that Isaac Okoro legitimately can make plays for others. He has vision. It's something that I think he always really had it. He just never got the opportunity to showcase it because that's not the role that he was playing. It's not really the role that was that was really asked of him. So now that he's being out there, allowed to play a little bit more comfortably, I'm really liking what I'm seeing in regards to that. Cavs in general, they finished tonight with 34 assists. Jesus, man. 34 assists on the night to Utah's 24. And their bench, man, I got to get the numbers for it, but their bench scored a tremendous amount of points. I'm seeing here between Sam and Karras alone, that's 50. Niang, that makes it 65. They scored 75 fucking points off their bench tonight. Whole if my math is correct, 75 points off the Cavaliers bench. Everybody who played for the Cavs tonight, well, everybody who was on that bench unit scored in double figures. Merrill had 27 points. LeVert had 23 points. Niang, who shot just 3 of 10 from distance, finished with 15 points still. Tristan Thompson, the ageless Tristan Thompson, and I know we kind of joke about this, right? At 32 years of age, that's not that old. Hell, I'll be 31. I'll be 31 in just a few months. And people would be calling me old, right? If I played in the NBA. 32 years of age for Tristan Thompson and still just finding ways to contribute. And tonight he did that. 10 points, 5 boards, 4 assists. Wow, right? 4 steals. This man is just stacking the stat sheet, at certain points when he's able to get minutes. But the overarching point here is the bench really, really stepped up here. Interestingly enough, just 2 starters finished in double figures. Not sure if you guys know that. That was Max Strus, who finished with 18, 4 and 4, and Jared Allen, who had a pretty good game, right, against Lowry, and Walker Kessler and company, 17 and 8. Everybody else that started, Dean Wade finished with just 3 points. People are gonna give him flack for that, but I don't see it as necessary. Craig Porter Jr. in place of Donovan Mitchell out there finished with 6 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists, and just 2 of 7 from the field. He did have 3 blocks, which is still crazy to think that a 6'2" guard is putting up some of these stat lines that he's doing. Like, you do not expect somebody his height to go out there and block maybe more than a few shots a season. But this dude, he's definitely somebody who can impact the game on the defensive end in ways that you just don't quite think would be the case. With a man his size at 6'2". He plays like he's about 6'6", 6'7" out there. But yeah, finished below double figures. Didn't really matter. And then Isaac Okoro, 5, 6, and 5. Look, y'all know how big of a fan I am of Isaac Okoro. Here's the thing. Even if he's not scoring a ton of points, he's going to do a ton of these things out here that make his minutes worthwhile, and he did that. And so when you have a night where your starters as a whole just aren't necessarily up to speed in regards to keeping pace with Utah, who conversely, everybody but Fontecchio scored in double figures, led by Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. Everybody in their starting unit, with the exception of Fontecchio, scored in double figures. For Cleveland, on the other hand, it was just Strus and Allen. So what do you do when that happens? You turn to your bench, especially when you see a guy as hot like Merill out there. Jesus, man. For people, and let me say this. Sam Merrill came in sort of a predicament, right? For me, it was like, as soon as Max Strus was acquired, I'm like, well, shit, like that. There goes Sam Merrill's opportunity to become a true rotation player. I just knew that shit was out the window. Then he's injuries hit, and it's like, okay, you can clear a couple of minutes for him. Same thing as you're doing with Craig right now, right? But when fully healthy, it's just really, really going to be tough to solidify this rotation. It might just kind of be plug and play, which I hate to say that, but there are just so many people on this Cavs roster that appear to deserve minutes, right? And I just want to run this through you guys real quick. At full strength, that you got Darius Garland, you have Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. Those are your starting 5. That's not changing, right? Caris LeVert, he is going to get a good complement of minutes. Isaac Okoro, ditto for him. And then when you get down to that like 8th through 10th or 11th man, that's when things get dicey, right? I see a lot of people calling for George Niang to be benched. Well, if you're going to do that, then the next available option is Dean Wade, right? You're likely to give Dean Wade his minutes, which I honestly do not see that occurring. I think they're going to still give Niang his fair share of opportunities, because we know history says that Niang is a really, really good shooter. And then, when you look past that, you have players like Tristan Thompson, who, when you need more of a traditional 5, he is your man, and he's still producing at a very high level for what you're asking him to do in his role. And then obviously the elephants in the room, Sam Merrill and Craig Porter Jr. It's tough, man. It really is tough. Like, you would like to say Craig Porter Jr. should be backing up Darius Garland. You would like to say Sam Merrill could be sort of like a Max Strus, or figure out lineups where you can have Merrill play the 2 guard, right? You would like to say these things, but the tough part is making the minutes work. Making the minutes work is just tough because the one thing that I would say that these two guys have working against them is their height. It's just trivial as it is to say. Max Strus, he's 6'5", but he's proven capable of affecting the game in more than a few areas, whether it be rebounding the basketball or on the defensive end. Sam Merrill at 6'4", we have seen him play above average on the defensive end, but you can't necessarily, you're not going to look to put Sam Merrill out there at the 3 more than you can help it, right? For Craig Porter Jr. at 6'2", although he plays taller than that, there are only so many rotations that you can operate with him in there, which it's the tough thing, which just goes back to when this rotation gets back to full strength, who the hell are you playing on a nightly basis off that reserve unit? And that's what kind of leads me to believe that this is probably going to be like more of a plug and play type of thing. Like, I see a lot of people down here making the comparison to Kyle Korver, as TuneIn Sports says down here. Yeah, Sam Merrill definitely give me baby Korver vibes. I love it, man, especially off of screens. Dude is just a shooter. It's just a flick of the wrist, man. Like, the release is one of the quickest releases I've ever seen. He really honestly looked, like he's just shooting with nobody around him, right? Just unconscious, just in the gym, putting up shots, like nobody around him. Just awesome sight to see, man. I need to look up the stats. I'm sure StatMuse hasn't quite updated the numbers for tonight, but the last time I did it, the last time I checked this was when I put out the content in regards to the calf stats, if you guys checked out recently. But the dude is literally shooting okay. Okay, they did update this. This is crazy to me. This is honestly really, really crazy to me. The 2023-24 season, Sam Merrill is shooting 47.5%. Holy shit. He is shooting 20. Jesus, man. I'm over here jumbling up my words here because I just did not quite expect to see that. In the 2023-24 season, Sam Merrill is shooting 47.5% on just flat out amazing volume. It's really, really going to be hard to sit that, man. Seriously, really, really, really hard to sit him. And as Jose A says down here, CBJ was low-key on triple-double watch. Yeah. And he's one of those guys where, like, his three-point shot, it is going to come and go, right? It's not something that he's looking to tape too far, too often, but it just hasn't seemed to matter because he's making teams pay in other areas. He's a very, very good rebounder for his size. He's a very, very good shot blocker for his size, and he obviously has incredible vision. So, yeah, I mean, that's another guy where I'm just thinking to myself, this is a really, really tough task to figure out on JB's part. I do not envy him in that regard, but it's a good problem, right? These are good things. Having too many guys who you feel might deserve minutes, that's a good problem because one of two things can happen. One, you know that you're stacked in the event that you face injury. And two, you could consolidate, right? If you need to, you might be able to consolidate if you're looking to move on. And that kind of brings me to my next topic here. We just got the news that Ricky Rubio is likely to be moved at some way. I guess the team is going to try and facilitate a way that allows them to use his salary in the trade, right? Rather than buying him out or releasing him or something like that. Ricky Rubio, who didn't ever really necessarily factor into the rotation to begin with, that's going to be a roster spot that might be opened up for one of these two-way players, whether it's Craig Porter Jr., Amani Bates, or even Isaiah Mobley at this point. So these are things that we have to keep an eye on here. And that's what I say when I mean like they could end up consolidating. If they feel like they have too many mouths to feed, or if they feel like they can get by without somebody, they'll make a consolidation trade, something small. I don't anticipate this happening. I'm just saying that's a route that you can take if you feel more than set in one specific area where they appear to be dead set in regards to their guards right now. So when we get back to full strength, there's some very interesting conversations to be had here, because not only do you have Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, but you have Karis LeVert, Craig Porter Jr. You could throw Sam Merrill in there. Isaac Okoro is going to get minutes at the guard spot. Max Strus can play the two. There's a lot of mouths to feed, a lot. So that's a good problem to have. And for me, I'm just like, man, after the losses that were starting to mount up for this Cleveland team, it just feels really, really good to be able to put together a pretty solid stretch here, because as of now, the Cavs have won their past three, and they've done this largely without their core, right? No Darius Garland, no Evan Mobley, didn't have Donovan Mitchell tonight, and they found a way to step up. So after those three straight losses, which came at the hands of the Orlando Magic and the Boston Celtics back to back, you have now picked up wins against the Atlanta Hawks, the Houston Rockets, and now the Utah Jazz. And say what you want about the quality of those wins, right? Because Atlanta is sitting at, as of now, 11-15, and as the 10th seed in the East. Boston, I'm not really mad at all about those losses. They're number one in the East right now at 20-6. So say what you want about that. And those losses came without Evan Mobley, by the way, which I feel like we would have been able to steal at least one of them had he been healthy. And then you look at their other win, right? Their other wins against Houston, who is the 9th seed in the West, and then Utah, who is out of the playoffs as of right now. Although it's too early to talk about that in regards to seeding. The point overall being, though, no matter who your opponent is, it's nice to start to put these seeds of a streak, in the ground and start to fertilize that. So that's what they're doing. This homestand has been great for that reason. They've been able to get their bearings back, and now they're going to head into a game against the New Orleans Pelicans as a very, very tough matchup against them at home. And I feel really good about that. Tune in, ask down here, hey Mac, how you feel about us getting the 4th seed? I mean, I'm looking at the standings right now, tune in, and I think it's certainly possible. I think that the start to the year just kind of warped people's minds. Like, the Cavs have faced an unprecedented amount of injuries this season. Oh, maybe that's an exaggeration, but if you watched my video the other day, you'll have noticed that I've noted out there the Cavs, not factoring in tonight's game, have missed a grand total of 73 games due to injury, which at the time of recording that video just the other day was 10th in the NBA. Now, obviously, without Donovan, without Darius for another game, without Evan for another game, without Ty Jerome for another game, that number rises to 77. So they have now missed 77 games due to injury on the season. And I feel like a lot of people have let that get to their heads, and in the regard that they don't feel like there's enough time here for Cleveland to catch up. And I honestly just don't believe that to be the case. I think that, as HJ17 Gaming says down here, we are such a better team than our record. I think the starters have only played like 5 to 8 games together. Yeah, I don't have that number specifically, but I know it's less than 10, right? So there's not a lot of continuity. There's not a lot of roster roster consistency or rotation consistency that JB has had to work with, which is another aspect of me. When I'm trying to defend JB out there to the naysayers, that's another thing that I point to. Like, coaches are definitely measured on how they operate when the chips are down and when they don't have specific guys available. That's typically when you see coaches pull things out of their hat and draw up plays and scheme out guys to hide their weaknesses and deficiencies and things like that, and put guys in proper positions and whatnot. But JB has had very little to work with in regards to roster continuity and consistency. So I think that overall, people have let that get to their heads in the regard that getting to one of those upper seeds in the East is out of reach. When in all actuality, it's just not. Cleveland can get to that 4 seed. It's going to take some work, and it's going to take some luck. It's going to take some other teams ahead of them to fall down a little bit. But when you really look at this, they're not far behind. Orlando, as Bleacher Report indicates it right now. I know they played a game tonight. I think they lost, right, against Miami. Not sure if it's updated the record yet, but they're sitting at 4 at 16-9 right now, and Cleveland is at 16-12. Just a couple of games difference, 2.5 games, right, or 1.5 games, something like that. Not really something that's tough to overcome. And then you look at the 3-seeded Philadelphia 76ers, who are at 18-8. All that's got to happen is things have to continue to keep chugging along. And I said this right when we got the news that Evan Mobley and Darius Garland were going to be missing extended time. I said, as long as they can tread water, right? As long as they can tread water and keep pace in the East, this Cavs team will be fine. And the reason I believe that is because, well, I honestly feel like them missing this time might be sort of a blessing in disguise, right? Because you are allowed to further evaluate some of this talent you have on your roster that wouldn't normally see time. Sam Porter Jr., Sam Porter Jr., Jesus. Craig Porter Jr. and Sam Merrill fall in that line, right? Obviously, with Max Strus and Karis LeVert and Isaac Okoro and Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and company, you're going to be hard pressed to find minutes for both of those guys, let alone one of them. So with the collective absence of both of your starting backcourt members, you're going to get the opportunities to see what these lesser known guys on your roster can do. And, for people who are not very familiar with Sam Merrill, this was a huge introduction to them tonight. 8 triples, right? And this is definitely a way to endear yourselves to the fans of this up and down fan base at times. I'll put it that way. Sam Merrill has definitely taken advantage of his opportunity, same way that Craig Porter Jr. has. And I couldn't feel happier for him. I don't know the guy, from a can of paint, but I could not feel more happy for him because at age 27, right, I believe, and this is technically his 4th season in the NBA, he's finally gotten an opportunity, right? We saw him work a ton at the G League level last season, putting up really good numbers with the Charge. But this season, he's been a hell of a lot better than I expected. I gotta say, I really gotta say, when we signed him last year, I was thinking to myself, you know what? We don't have a ton of shooting on this roster. What the hell? Throw him out there. And we just, honestly, he came in late. So there just wasn't a lot of opportunities for him to play. And, and while he was technically available for the postseason series against the New York Knicks, he's not necessarily at that time. You can't necessarily say, hey, you should have played Sam Merrill, because I don't think really anybody outside of maybe Sam Merrill's mom expected him to play that well. And he's taken advantage of his opportunities and hit the ground running. So I really do not envy JB in some of the decisions that he's going to have to make when this team starts to return to full strength. Tom K says somebody will pay Merill this summer. I'm just glad, Tom, that they gave him a multi-year deal this past offseason, right? I'm glad that they brought him back to compete, right? Because with the injury history of this team, with the fact that guys can be up and down in regards to their shooting, Sam Merrill is a worthwhile addition, and he honestly deserves to be paid if he continues to keep this up throughout the duration of the season. And that just honestly, it's not great, right? Because, and I'm not a contracts guy. I'm not going to go out there and stick my foot in my mouth, but I will say this: it doesn't bode well for Cleveland, right? When you have so many different roster decisions to make this upcoming offseason when you're talking about Isaac Okoro, right, who is now in RFA since he didn't get a new deal. You could technically resign Donovan Mitchell, although I don't think that'll be the case, right? Because he's going to wait until he can get the most money, and then you still have to um, work towards Evan Mobley's eventual contract extension. So there's some things that you're going to have to figure out. And Merrill, if he continues to play this way, is going to put himself up for a nice, sizable, deal. And I couldn't feel happier for him. But overall on the night, man, this is just a lovely game. You had the return of Colin Sexton, who got a wonderful tribute, I hear. I didn't get to see it. I wasn't at the game, obviously, at my house. I look crazy with the kids here and whatnot, but I heard that he had a really nice tribute. So that's really classy for Cleveland to do. I'll check that out. But yeah, in 34 minutes for the Utah Jazz, um, Colin Sexton gave them 23 and 2 on 7 of 17 from the field and 3 of 6 from 3-point distance. And he's been very well since he's become a starter. Since Utah has elevated him to the starting lineup, he's been putting up some numbers, man. I'm pretty sure, I did this for Sam, so I guess I'll go ahead and do it for Colin here, although he is an op now, right? Over his last 5 games, which are now all starts, I believe, he is putting up 25.6 points, 4 assists, and 3 rebounds while shooting 50.6% from the field, including 40.6 from 3-point distance. He's played very well, to say the least. Since he's been drawing starts, which is probably what Utah should have done all along, right? He's been playing very well for them, and he gives an opportunity to win each and every time that he's out there. Thanks for clarifying that, Tom. I wasn't actually sure how many years he had on his deal. He said Tom K says Sam Merrill has a 3-year contract. But yeah, XBeat says glad to see Sexton balling. Me too, man. I'm really excited that they have finally given him the opportunity that he deserves. For me with Sexton, you guys know how I felt. I was really, really heavy on the hey, don't trade Colin Sexton thing. I feel like he could be like a budget Donovan Mitchell or somebody who can give you Donovan Mitchell-esque value for a hell of a lot less money. And obviously had my foot in my mouth then. And I still believe that Donovan Mitchell obviously is the much better player. But I'm happy to see that Colin is getting an opportunity to prove the naysayers wrong, because I always believed that in his tenure here, he was fallen victim to the good stats on a bad team trope that we see a lot for, frankly, some good players if they move to a different team. He was a bright light in a dark time, and he was the first guy, right, to be drafted post LeBron James, in the second post LeBron James era. Colin Sexton picked 8th overall, gave us more than a few fun times. I could list a ton off in my head right now, but none. Probably none more so than the Brooklyn Nets game where he spoiled their big threes, emergence. So, yeah, I say all that to say I'm still remaining a fan of Colin Sexton, and I wish him nothing but the best. I just hope that he doesn't excel when he plays us, which is for me, I was thinking to myself, this is his first opportunity to actually suit up against Cleveland since he missed both games last season, I believe. This was his first opportunity to play against Cleveland. So I was wondering, is there going to be an emotional aspect to this? Is he going to give it a little bit more than he has in these past couple of games? And, obviously, I haven't watched the post game or anything like that, but I have to believe that there's some aspect of it, because these guys are human at the end of the day. I do have to believe that there was some part of emotional aspect attached to that. And that he looked genuinely, when they showed him on the screen after the tribute, because again, I didn't see it, but I heard via the broadcast that he was appreciative of that, and you love to see that, right? Because he kicked off the rebuild, honestly. So I wish him nothing but the best. And then you could look at the other familiar face that has become a star, an all-star last year, right? Lowry Markkinen, who was just bloomed. He had the overseas basketball run that really helped elevate him, but the way that Utah has chosen to run things through him, it has really elevated him across the board. He finished the night with 26 points, 10 boards on 8 of 18 shooting, including 3 of 9 from distance. And while the Jazz, they're not a contender or anything like that, they're probably not going to finish in the playoff race, but it is good to see both of these guys doing well, especially Lowry, right? A guy who many people still think we shouldn't have gotten rid of, or that, if we had Lowry, our offense would be great, or something along those lines. And, I've always held the same opinion in regards to that. Lowry, due to the nature of how Utah is using him, is really just he is the focal point of the offense. He was not that here, and he would have never become that here. But I am I'm really highly appreciative of the fact that he's doing well, same as I am with Colin Sexton. So I'm really, really proud of both of those guys. I wish them nothing but the best. But it was great, man. It was great to hand those guys a loss because at the end of the day, we are Cavaliers fans. After all, we're not overall players of the we're not overall fans of just the players. We are fans of the team in general. So I'll take the win over those familiar faces any day over those guys playing well. But best wishes to them. Looking ahead here for Cleveland again, they will take on the New Orleans Pelicans tomorrow in a pretty tough matchup. I imagine that the Cavs are probably going to have their hands full trying to figure out who the hell is going to play on Zion Williamson and company. And they got some other really good pieces there too. One of the rumors that we consistently have shoved down our throats, and I think we saw this reported again today, is that the New Orleans Pelicans are interested in Jared Allen. Frankly, you're not getting them. You can't have them. No, I don't want Jonas Valanciunas. Yes, they have some interesting pieces there, but anybody worthwhile, I just don't feel like is attainable. So we're probably still going to continue to see these rumors fluctuate throughout the season, but I'm still a huge believer in Jared Allen. So I wouldn't like to see a deal made. If Jared is eventually moved, it probably won't even be until the offseason, right? You let things play out because honestly, we haven't gotten to see this team at full strength for more than a handful of games to really even evaluate just how good or bad. But yeah, I just feel like now would be a terrible time to consider moving Jared. I say all that to say that we have to take on the New Orleans Pelicans tomorrow. So if you're going to be scouting on who you potentially want in a trade back, tomorrow is a good opportunity to do it because they play the Cavs. That said, I think that's probably a good place to leave it tonight. Thank you guys for chilling with me. I'm exhausted. Just had the new kid. Appreciate all the well wishes, by the way, in regards to that. But if you'd like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you an invite. Go Cavs.